Hey everyone, so today it's February the 19th and we're going through our colonies today and we're giving them all the first round of liquid feed for the season. We've been feeding with sugar bricks for a while, but it's time to switch over. They've got a lot of pollen coming in and we're going to feed them liquid feed. We're going to give them a 1.5 to 1 mixture. It's still a little stimulative, but we've got cold weather ahead, so we're going to use a little thicker syrup than normal. Typically we would use 1 to 1 if we was out of the cold, but we're not, so we're going to go with a thicker syrup. The way we're feeding them, we're going to use our division board feeders, and we'll show you and kind of give you a discussion. A real small colony, we'll do something different. So just wanted to bring you along, show you how we do it. Guys, we're also going to be throwing our last round of pollen supplement on these colonies. We made this up yesterday, kept it in the house to keep it warm before we throw it on top of the brood nest. Every colony will get another pollen patty just because we've got bad weather coming. It's supposed to rain all next week, so any of the smaller colonies that we have, we'll get a mason jar with feed in it. And the way we do that, we'll punch a couple holes in here with a frame nail, lay this on top of the colony, and our jar will fit down in there. This just acts as a support base to keep the jars from falling off in the wind or anything like that. It works pretty good. It's not perfect. I don't like to use buckets this time of year because the heat and cool, and if we set that on top of the colony, they can drip a little bit. And it's really ideal to have this on the outer or the cover of the beehive offset from the cluster itself. Like, don't put the holes directly on top like we have them, but kind of put it toward the back so you can adjust your feed so it's not dripping down on the cluster. But that's not the way we were set up. We were set up to originally use buckets, and we decided to switch over to division board feeders. So we'll give you a detailed look at how we do everything as the video goes on. As you can see, this colony is not directly in contact with this feeder. So there is a chance that they won't move over when it's cool and access this feeder. Now there's enough bees in here, I'm confident in not moving it over. But it's better to have this cluster directly against that feeder. I'm not going to take the time to do that today. I can come back in a day or two and check them. They still have sugar on here, but this will give them some liquid feed when we fill this, and on warm days they can move over to access it. Now, keep in mind, if you have colder weather than we do, it would be a better idea to put them right up against it or put a jar on top. We're going to put a small piece of pollen right up top. Now keep in mind, with this liquid feed that we're feeding, the days are going to be into the 50s the next week or so, so they'll be able to move to access this sugar syrup we're giving them. If it wasn't going to be warm, we would probably be feeding with jars over the top and continuing with our sugar blocks. But with it warming up enough, the cluster can break and they can move over. They can come over here and utilize this feed. Same thing with this colony. They've ate most of their supplement and most of their sugar, so they're really in need for some liquid feed. So we're going to give it to them today. As you can see, the cluster is still on this side of the feeder. Now, if the feeder was over here and they couldn't access it, I would manipulate the frames to where the cluster was right beside the feeder. And the reason we would do that is because we're still having cold weather. This colony is very small. If you can look down in here, you'll be able to see they're very small, maybe 2 frames of bees. They really need to be put over a double string board, but we're not going to mess with it. We're going to drop a feed jar on top of these. I need a pollen supplement. We're going to drop a feed jar on top of them and wish them the best. and I'll show you how we do that. We're going to put this pollen supplement right over the cluster. For them to utilize it, especially in cool weather, it needs to be directly on where the cluster can access it. So that's all we're going to give them. And we leave room for them to access it. I know there's a sugar brick in there on top of them, but they can venture out on these warm days and get to this supplement or sugar syrup. We just fill the jar. And this liquid feed should really help this small colony if they're going to be able to make it. No guarantees that this one will make it, but if they stand a chance and they're trying to hold on, this liquid feed will really help. I only put 2 holes in the jar. They don't need to take a whole lot of syrup right now. They just need a little bit to get them by. And it's as simple as that. This colony has consumed all their sugar stores that they had. Most of the pollen, the only reason they hadn't ate this piece of pollen here is because it hardened up. So we're going to give them a large piece of pollen. Actually, I'm going to leave that. It's still a little damp and moist. They're working on it. And we're going to fill their feeder. Just a little bit on the top to entice them. Now, if it was real cold, I wouldn't want to put any syrup on the bees themselves, but it's about 56 degrees right now, so I feel confident in giving them a little bit over the bodies of the bees. That'll entice them to clean each other off and also let them know that there's some syrup down there. This colony is very healthy, very vibrant. As you can see, they're all in the lid. You want to be mindful of your queen always with these lids. Double check your inner cover. You don't want to lose a queen out here. We're going to fill this feeder also. This colony's big enough they can move around to get it, unlike that smaller colony we put the jar on. We really need to clean these feeders out. It makes it a lot faster because you don't have to deal with the slow filling because of the propolis and beeswax that's in them. And we're going to give this colony a fairly large size piece of pollen. This will get them by the next week or so. There is natural pollen coming in also, so we're just trying to get them through this week of rain we've got coming in. These bees are going to be needing to be split before long, and we're going to equalize all these colonies throughout the yard. So overall, I'm happy with what the bees look like. They're in good shape. Looking forward to this yard. Should make a lot of honey and make a lot of bees for us. This colony has consumed all their sugar stores that they had. Most of the pollen, the only reason they hadn't ate this piece of pollen here is because it hardened up. So we're going to give them a large piece of pollen. Actually, I'm going to leave that. It's still a little damp and moist. They're working on it. And we're going to fill their feeder. Just a little bit on the top to entice them. Now, if it was real cold, I wouldn't want to put any syrup on the bees themselves, but it's about 56 degrees right now, so I feel confident in giving them a little bit over the bodies of the bees. That'll entice them to clean each other off and also let them know that there's some syrup down there. This colony has really grown. It wouldn't surprise me if this colony was preparing to swarm. It won't be long if they're not already making swarm cells. So I want to get in this colony and I want to check it just to see, because if they are preparing to swarm and they have cells, we're going to bring a double screen board and we're going to put over the top of this colony and go ahead and split it. There is some drones. There's not a lot of drones out yet, but it's better than losing a swarm. If it doesn't work out with getting a queen mated, you can always recombine them for the honey flow. We're going to go ahead and clean some of this burr comb up also. It's getting to be a mess. There's some brood in this top. We've got drone brood up here already. I'm not sure if you can see that in the camera, but there's drone brood, so they know what they're doing. Spring's here to the bees, even though they're not out of the woods yet with the weather. And these boxes are tight because we run 9 frames in them with a division board feeder. We're looking at going to a deep and a medium frame, and if we are deep and medium super, and if we do that, we're definitely going to be putting a medium feeder in the top and removing this one from the bottom. And it's still cool out, and these get a lot easier to work as the temperature rises. So I'm just giving this frame a once over. And we've also switched over to plastic foundation, which alleviates that problem there. They're surprisingly gentle, this colony. That other one we opened was not happy at all, but these aren't being too bad. I'm seeing some eggs and larvae, not a lot. I figured I'd see a lot more than this, honestly. I don't recommend you blow on the combs. It can really irritate the bees, but sometimes we do it. Oh, the blob of bees just fell down through this. I don't know what's going on with that. Yeah, I'm wiping sweat. It's hot for us, especially in a bee suit. More eggs in this colony. More eggs in this frame, I mean. I'm not seeing much in the way of cap brood, which I'm excited about in a way, because I thought this colony was going to be ready to take off. They do have drones on it. I'm not sure if you can see the drones. There's a drone right there. Let's see if he's mature. You can gently touch him. If he flies off, he's mature. See, he's not mature yet because he didn't fly off. He's almost mature. He's almost ready to fly. A little bit of smoke. I'm seeing a lot of drone brood on this next frame over. Here's a frame of brood here. This colony's real strong. This colony's going to be needing to be split as soon as we can raise queens, and they're ready for a super now. So we're going to be bringing a super along and putting it on top of this colony. And this is also going to be one of the colonies that we're going to use to equalize other colonies with. I've seen all I need to see in this colony. I don't see any evidence they're ready to swarm right now. Maybe in another week or so they'll be making swarm cells. So, but for now we're good. Well guys, we got this yard done. We got one more yard to do. We did our nook yard earlier and one of our other yards. Unfortunately, the property owner don't allow us to film there, so we're restricted to these 2 yards to bring you to until we establish another yard this year. We got those fed. The bees have pretty much tore us up pretty good. They're not in any mood to be messed with today, and that's been the consensus through all the yards. But unfortunately, we're just gonna have to, suck it up and get out here and feed anyway, because they've got to have it. As you can see, they're doing good. They're building up well. The 2 on the end, they need more space now, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're probably going to bring some boxes out here tomorrow and put on top of those. So it's never ending, but it's enjoyable work, and there's nothing like opening a colony of bees when they're gentle. Today they wasn't gentle, but don't let that deter you. Bees can be temperamental. Depends on the weather, the day. It's windy. You know, we got a storm coming in, rain. It's been windy for the past 3 or 4 days. One of the tops was blown off. Not sure if it was blown off or an animal took it. We've actually got another animal in one of our nuisance traps, so we'll show you that too. So stay tuned. We'll see you at the next yard. As you can see, we've caught another possum in this yard. They play havoc on our lids and our boxes, but it's usually the raccoons that's worrying us. I don't know if this possum's what destroyed our lid or not, but we're just going to release him. We're not going to harm him. So if it was a raccoon, we'd haul him off, but this one we're just going to release from the trap and send him on his way. As you can see, he's free to go, not harmed in any way. He's going to play possum, of course, but he's not hurt.
Nay, see the day. What you?
What Corbin's doing, he's just pulling our hose out to get us ready to get started. We're at our home yard now, and at the yard that's at our shop, and we're fixing to get started feeding it. It'll be more of the same, but we'll give you an idea of what our colonies are looking like. Hey guys, on this one, this is a colony that's over a modified double screen board, and they're small, so we're just giving them a jar. See, they've been taking the syrup. They've been consuming it, so we're going to give it to them. Now this colony we're going to just take off and set to the side and access the bottom. Better get the smoke. Guys, if you can see, this colony has ate everything we've given it. Same thing with this one. Going to have to be mindful of swarming early. Equalizing is going to help out a lot, but it don't always prevent it. So we're going to have to be in these colonies checking them. We had to give them pollen supplement early, and they've been rearing brood for a while, and these colonies are really starting to grow, so we're going to have to be mindful of that. And I just got stung in the back. Days like today, they're not really in a mood to be bothered, but if you can see, they needed some groceries, so that's what we're doing. Guys, if you can see this colony, the cluster's over here away from our feeder. Drop our smoker on the ground like that. But we're going to move this cluster over toward this division board feeder. They would benefit more from a lot of feed versus the little bit of feed that was in those jars that we could put on them. We could put a bucket on them, but I don't want it dripping down on the colony that much because our holes in our lids is right at the top. So we're going to move this one over. So yeah, we're just going to give this one some feed and a big old pollen supplement patty. This is another one we got to kind of watch out for swarming early, but we'll diminish this population a lot whenever we equalize our colonies in this yard. This is good enough right here. Woohoo! That's good. More of the same, more good looking colonies ready to split. It just goes to show if you take care of your bees in the throughout the summer and into the fall, you generally have good colonies coming out of the winter. So now don't get me wrong, we lost some bees too this year, but overall our bees have done really well. Now the wind's going to start kicking up, making our day a little more challenging. And it's late in the day. Keep in mind, a lot of times late in the day, all the foragers are at home, and those are the bees that like to sting you. So it's not the new bees that want to bother you, the young nurse bees. When it's about 3 or 4 o'clock in the evenings, whenever all the field force is back at home and they're not in any mood to be messed with, and they'll tear you a new one. So keep in mind, the later in the day, the harder it is to work your bees.